Welcome to ADP's webcast on global payroll strategy. I'm John Antos, Vice President of Strategy for Global Payroll, and I'm here with my colleague, Maria Moreno, who's the Division Vice President of Strategy and Business Development here at ADP. Hi, Maria.
Hi, John.
So as companies grow, they're busy trying to manage a number of challenges. And one of those challenges is around maintaining compliance and growing your business, but doing so compliantly and managing your people. And one key aspect of that, as you grow in different markets around the world, is really ensuring that your global payroll system keeps up with the complexity of managing your people. And so managing people across borders comes with a whole bunch of unique challenges. And whether that's adapting to your tax changes or remote worker payrolls or handling different types of expat or benefits, a lot of different challenges come from managing people from one place across borders to another. And so to help our viewers navigate this, we're going to walk through 5 key things that you need to know about your payroll strategy and hear it from 2 strategy professionals as to how we can help you make the best of your business case going forward. So 5 things that we're going to be covering today are really around key environmental factors. And environmental means what's happening outside of your business that's driving your business decisions that you need to be aware of. And how can that impact your payroll strategy? And of course, while it's global payroll, all employees are local and need to be paid locally. And so we'll talk about compliance and regulations and how those impact that move from global to local, as well as what your employee expectations and the benefits that you might expect to get from your system. Payroll talent is a key consideration for any HR leader that has payroll teams around the world, and how you manage that talent and how you structure your organization can be also part of your key strategies. And then the last piece, which both Maria and I will try to share and help you out, is really how do you make the case? How do you build that business case to convince your executives around making agile payroll transformation? And so let's get started. We'll dive into our first topic, and starting out with key environmental factors that may be impacting your business, but will definitely drive your global payroll strategy. And so for me, global payroll is both interesting and fun, more so than domestic payroll, because of all the variables that you have every single day that you see in the news, whether it be climate or trade or economics or geopolitics. All the things that you see every day actually impact your global payroll strategy because they impact your business and the environment that they're operating in. And so being able to set up your global payroll system so that you can effectively manage those becomes a real key to trying to decide what's the right strategy for you going forward. And so, Maria, as you're located in Barcelona, in Europe, what are some of the key environmental impacts that clients are telling you about?
Yeah, so that's actually a very good question. Many of our international clients operate in several countries, so complexity is what is more challenging for them. You need to take into consideration that some of our clients we service in more than 99 countries, and these clients don't have an even distribution in terms of markets. They are in very large mature markets and very small emerging countries. So they really depend on ADP payroll technology, but also in our managed services to be able to serve their population across the world. I will say for them, the real challenge is around everything that's related with local regulations associated with payroll and filling processes. To share a few examples with you that I think illustrate this complexity is, first, all of these payrolls are going to be done in different time zones, with different languages, and in different calendar dates. But also, for example, if you take France, a very mature country in Europe, the average number of pieces of information that you need just to fill the Social Security declaration, it's going to be around 500 data points per employee. You move to Brazil, and you have, for example, our largest client with more than 1,500 labor agreements. And you have finally the situation in Africa where, on top of all the complexity around compliance, you will have also the challenges of the infrastructure where you don't pay the same way. There are different things that you need to take into consideration. So all that complexity is what really makes global payroll fun and interesting for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. And wow, it can get complex. I mean, to have as many changes in France and Brazil. I know I'm located in Singapore, and here in Asia, what we see is we see a lot of companies that are trying to navigate a lot of the different external factors that you have. And that really started maybe about 10 years ago when a lot of companies had invested in China as their supplier, and wage rates went up there. And so what they found was people began moving to other markets, right? So they needed to pay all those people as they expanded their business and moved to Southeast Asia or India or different types of places. And so they were really driven by some of these political and economic conditions, supply chain realignments. And all of that was about really kind of controlling their risk. And so out here, really 50% of the GDP of the entire region is in China. So that type of change was a big change for them. And then, of course, we had the pandemic, which a lot of people were doing very efficient sourcing and very efficient purchasing, right? So they had all their suppliers, low cost, productive in one spot. But when those countries closed for the pandemic, they were suddenly without that. And we saw that actually in payroll as well, where people that had payroll systems that were on-prem and were older systems and suddenly couldn't get to their offices during lockdown period really drove a lot of people to consider outsourcing their payroll to other providers that would for sure be open because they were having difficulty paying their employees. So there's a lot of different challenges with the environment. And of course, the latest one is trade that's having a lot of people kind of reevaluate their supply chains and where they could be. But all of these things lead to kind of how do we grow our workforce and what's your company's strategy and what are the implications around that. It's interesting because what I'm hearing from a lot of companies is common business drivers revolve around cost and productivity. And I was wondering, are you hearing a lot of the same things?
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is how this global uncertainty it's impacting all our clients. As you were mentioning, trade is being a big disruptor right now. And also all that is happening in a world that's different because of the pandemic. So today, flexibility is essential. Companies are focusing on adapting by diversifying their operations, the supply chain, cost management continuing being a priority, and first are emphasizing budget control and efficiency to navigate this changing world. But also the way it's impacting us at least is organizations are becoming more and more cautious, and they are delaying not only the investments but also the hiring, which sometimes results of the need to outsource some of the functions that they have, one being payroll. And the last thing I will say that it's a big change, at least I see that in Europe, is in the past, and probably because those are very mature markets, there were a lot of decisions that were done based on experience or intuition, while today it's everything based on current data analytics, and sometimes it's changing week to week. So that's making, again, it's having a big impact, by the way, not only for payroll, for every project that requires a lot of investment, just because the client is translating to us all that uncertainty that they have today in their work.
Yeah, and uncertainty. So I heard it said today that volatility is okay. We can deal with that, but uncertainty is more challenging than that because you really don't know. And I know in talking to a lot of clients that actually one of the things that they are looking for when they think about global payroll is being able to do things very efficiently and to really be able to generate productivity. And what that kind of means is it translates into having standardized processes, organized teams, good tools, and good data. And a lot of times this kind of uncertainty in the economic and the outside environment makes that really difficult to achieve. So turning from kind of the macro environment that impacts your business and the types of things that you need to set up to our second topic, if we take a look at that move from going global to going local, and we think about probably the key thing for any payroll system is really compliance and regulations. And of course, at ADP, it's what we really focus on because we know that it's in the end, managing risk is what's going to be important for our clients. And so as companies really pursue this, they're investing a lot in transformation. And not just at the business sense, but what we see is that a lot of HR teams are also to manage the complexity that's kind of coming with HR changes, that you're also going to need to kind of think about your resources when you plan your payroll strategy and how are your investments going to take shape. And so, Maria, one of the key things that I think about, or one of the big changes that happened was really around flexible work after the pandemic. And so it was great for all of us employees because when we finally got to go back to the office and then you could maybe work from here or work from there, all of those things were good. But for payroll professionals, that was really challenging, especially for global payroll, because you don't know where people are working. You don't know, what the tax rates are. You don't know any of these types of things. So that was after the pandemic. Today, what are some of the factors that you think are driving this kind of compliance need in the global to local space?
Yeah, I think what people forget sometimes when you think about what it means to be global is how the regional compliance challenges affect that. And what I'm saying by that is there is not one global approach to global compliance. You will have, for example, if you take the US, where you have federal, state, and local taxes, and that is what makes everything complicated there. You move to Europe, for example, and it's going to be about data privacy rules, complex labor laws, and how control is time and attendance. And also, you will have different, you will need to support different labor agreements, but also different pay cycles. There will be countries that is 30 months, there will be countries that is 12, there will be countries that's 14. You go to APAC and it's all about how rapid everything change. There are a lot of changes, there are multi-currency even, and all that needs to be factored onto the data that you need to use to process the payroll. Latin America, it's all about complex labor regulations and how difficult it is to make terminations. And finally, you move to Africa, and on top of all the diverse regulations, you will have all the challenges in infrastructure and a lot of volatility around the currency. So that's what makes global payroll compliance so complicated, is there is not a booklet that you can apply in every geography. So they are complex per se, but also they are changing. This is a live environment that changes every single day.
Yeah, and to be able to manage those changes and still stay within your business continuity and stay resilient as a business, given all the environmental changes, is really difficult. And it's one of the things that a lot of companies here. We have client advisory boards, and we recently had them both in Australia and Singapore and a few other markets here. And it was interesting listening to clients talk about data and data management and data security and how important that those things are for them. And a lot of that was driven not just because of the kind of importance in privacy laws and things like that, but it was also driven by new AI tools and things that access data in different ways. And so that was one thing that came up in their discussion about what was important in global payroll to them, was really around how either their vendor or their system is managing their data, and not just doing so that you get good output and accurate pay out of it, but also data security, how easy it is to work with a vendor that maybe has a data security team that can talk to your data security team, and that you can really ensure that the ecosystem that you're setting up across countries really covers a lot of ground and kind of meets the standards that you would have for your own employees. And so that kind of leads to some of the next topic around employee expectations and what are some of the benefits that you want to get from your global payroll system. And so beyond just the compliance and beyond data security, really having a good user experience. I mean, we all love to use our smartphones and we just expect everything to work and no user manuals like you used to have or anything. We just be able to dive right in and have it go. And every employee loves that to happen. And so, what are some of the biggest workplace trends that you see kind of driving that whole employee experience that clients should take note of?
Yeah, so as you mentioned before, the pandemic changed it all. And now workplace needs to reflect some of these changes on the employee expectation. The first one being an employee now wants to have this flexibility to combine both remote and in-office options. Most of our systems, honestly, were built for us to work in the office. And now you need to change that. You need to change that with user-friendly technology, but also with technology that is going to enhance your productivity and your collaboration when you are not at the office. So that will be the biggest change. It's not only the expectations have changed from a consumer point of view, but also from a company point of view, you really need to foster that collaboration. Also, when you move to the benefits, and I think also as a consequence of the pandemic, mental health and work-life balance is now mandatory. There are huge expectations around this from employees. And finally, they want to learn and they want to grow. So understanding what are their opportunities and how they need or what they need to do to achieve them through constant learning, it's more and more important. Finally, I will say everything around open communications, because again, this is all about change and how our employees' expectations have changed and have evolved and will continue to evolve with time. So making sure you are that company that build trust through transparent communication, I think it's more important than ever.
Yeah, and certainly it's not only important, I guess, for companies, but we've seen in our research from ADP research, we do a global study every year called People at Work, and always the issue of pay transparency across the 18 or 19 markets that we do a global survey in. It's always really important, and it highlights different pay between whether it's gender or different roles and how important that sense of fairness is. And so when you think about diversity, inclusion, belonging, different initiatives that you have, you may think that pay is kind of separate of that, but it actually feeds right in. And I think is really a critical element for people feeling good about where they work, feeling good about the company that they work for. And your payroll system can have things like payroll diversity dashboards and transparency metrics and different things are built in. Those are important things to look at because you'll find that you'll end up needing them to maintain and grow your employee base. And so speaking of talent, turning to one of my favorite topics, payroll talent, because payroll professionals are some of our most important and loved people at ADP. And we work with many of our clients' payroll teams, and we have for many years. So when we think about global payroll and global payroll talent, this is really like next level. Because you may have teams and regional teams, you may have global teams, you may have in-country teams, and they can be in all different places speaking different languages. And so really bringing that all together is a real challenge. And the one thing, though, that I hear consistently across many of the different markets that I've talked to clients in recently is that payroll talent, there's a bit of a shortage nowadays. And in fact, I remember one client, she said, as payroll people either move on or retire and we need to refill our talent, the trouble is that nobody's graduating with a degree in payroll anymore. And I don't know that they ever did, but on that case, I can see where it's a real talent, a talent crunch right when we need to have all this expertise. And so what are you seeing as some of the payroll challenges? Are you hearing the same things from clients where you are?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, by the way, it's not just a challenge that we have in the HR and payroll industries. Companies are facing challenges in finding talent. We have less young people. And as you mentioned, the experts are retiring. So I think that's an impact of the change of demographics that we are experiencing in mature markets. That said, you are absolutely right. I don't think if you ask a kid what they want to be when they are older, I don't think anyone says, I want to be a payroll specialist. You want to be a doctor or a football player or maybe an actor, but not working payroll. I think there are some strategies that you as a client can use to overcome this issue and that we have proven and are working really well for ADP. First of all, we need to communicate what we do. And there are some times that it's not just enough to do things properly internally. You just need to use social media or testimonials to make sure that people understand there is business in this industry and there is a career path. So that's the first thing I will do, making sure you put your work in there so you are able to attract candidates with your organization culture and values. Offer flexibility. We discussed before the expectation of the employee have changed after pandemic. So making sure you have the tools to be able to offer remote work and flexible hours, that will widen your candidate pool. And as mentioned before, for that you need systems that are user-friendly and that are going to foster collaboration. Another thing that we did at ADP and worked it really well is establish training academies. It's true you won't have graduates on payroll coming from university, but you can create those programs that are going to attract first-time employees and you can help them to build that skill in payroll. And finally, partner with educational institutions, with universities, collaborate with them and offer trainings, offer internship programs, everything that you can do to make sure that you can attract those qualified candidates.
Yeah, and actually the universities and kind of working with new graduates has been a strategy I've heard a lot of clients talk about doing, and really pointing to that a couple of data points just to share with everybody to highlight the magnitude of the challenge is in our potential payroll report we really saw that 61% of respondents are really impacting the payroll service that they can deliver, and 53% are really struggling to source payroll skills from kind of outside the business. And so how they're really doing that, and what I'm hearing from clients, is they're essentially talking to new graduates, or they're looking at academies, they're looking at different things, but since nobody knows the full payroll picture anymore, they're essentially hiring for skills that they think are going to be important for the data management, the analysis, some of the other things maybe around compliance, and they're trying to train the payroll, which is why what we're doing with Payroll Academies plays into that so well, because we're able to support our clients and partner with them to really try to train the core parts of payroll, assuming that the employees that they have and their teams have the other skills to make use of those tools. And I think one of the keys going forward, or one of the things I'm most hopeful about, is that some of the new AI tools that you think about, if we think about ADP Assist, where it's a conversational natural language kind of tool that brings AI, and it really helps you especially in a multi-country setting where you're maybe not familiar with all the markets because you only sit in one market, but you're managing several. It allows you to query the tool and kind of talk to it in a more natural way. So it really helps anybody of any skill level to be able to kind of work through that and make the most of their payroll system. And so with that, coming to the last section of our discussion today, this is where Maria and I really get a chance to share with you what we do regularly, which is help build a strategy and build business cases. And so when you think about making your case for agile payroll transformation, what are a few things that we can think about? And we'll share some tips here for you to help think about and apply to your business case. And so I would just kick it off, Maria, by saying that I think when you're planning your business case, you should never really think about payroll as one and done. And if you think about where we started our discussion today, the world that your company is existing in and all the challenges that your business is adapting to are going to mean people in different places. It's going to mean people with different skill sets. It's going to mean expats. It's going to mean different things. And all of that impacts payroll and taxes and all the other things that you may have. And so as your company evolves, you need to think about payroll as not being a single system that we buy today, but something that's flexible and that you have options in the future and that you can add things and you have additional services. So when you're thinking, beyond payroll and beyond just the payroll process, let me pitch two questions to you if you're building a payroll strategy, Maria. How do you connect payroll activity to the business strategy? And then secondly, how do you really prepare that business case? What are a few things that you'd recommend?
Yeah, so while it might seem straightforward, I believe a strategy is based both on data and common sense. So for me, the first thing that will be super crucial in the process of building your business case for a payroll agile transformation will be clarity on the challenge you are trying to address. Are you doing this because, as mentioned before, this is complex, maybe you are not able to source those payroll specialists and you are struggling with that? Or this is a cost reduction exercise because the outcome will be totally different. And the good news, as John was explaining, is we have optionality. There are different tools and different ways you can approach that. So having that candid conversation about what is the goal of the business case is critical. Second to that, I will say, once that's clarified, it's collaboration. We are experts on payroll. We do that, again, as mentioned before in the podcast, to clients that have more than 99 countries. So we know what we are doing, but you know what your company needs and how your company works. So having that collaboration and being able to go back and forth, building that business case is going to be critical because, again, this is a very complex industry. There is a lot of things that ADP can do to support, but having that strategic partnership between the client and ADP is going to be critical to make sure that we can move faster.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you. And those would be probably my top tips too. I guess just to add to what you have already mentioned, what I would say is to really spend time understanding your business and to talk to your business stakeholders as a piece of this. So one of the key questions that you can ask, because a lot of times a business case might be, what are we going to get for payroll or payback in 2 or 3 years, or how long will it take us to implement this system? And all those things are maybe a 1 to 3 year time frame. You should maybe spend some time talking to business stakeholders and asking them, where do you see the business in 5 years? Where are we going in 10 years? What new geographies might we go into? What are technologies likely to be that you're thinking of adopting elsewhere in the business that the payroll system would need to connect with? And really kind of working through some of those so that you can build and plan for that kind of resilient piece of your strategy. Another piece that I would say that you have to just remember is that while payroll processing is the centerpiece of this, it certainly for most of us as employees isn't the end of the line. Because in order to get money in our wallets and money in our bank accounts at the end of the day, you're going to need other systems, right? And you're going to need other services, managed services. A lot of times can deliver this, whether it be your statutory reporting, your payments, aggregated reporting across multiple countries so that you can compare your metrics. There's a lot of different things that we can find, and each country is a little bit different, which, as we said earlier, makes it kind of fun and exciting because you're constantly learning and doing new things, but it also makes it quite challenging, to be honest, right, if you're trying to prepare these things. So you need a system and managed services that help you deliver for both your long-term strategies as well as driving your data-driven strategies.
I just would like, John, if you allow me, I just would like to stress something that you say, because I think it's actually critical and really important, is think about global payroll transformation as a long-term strategy. The investment that you will need to make upfront, it's going to be the biggest one. So this is not something that you can change every other year. That needs to be a strategy that you build for the long term, and don't underestimate how complex things are going to get. So as John was mentioning, making sure that you think end-to-end to this strategy, that you talk with your stakeholders, that you understand, as we were mentioning before, the different complexity that you will have for a region, that's going to be critical. So try to do that upfront.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, and it's not uncommon, I would say, as you know, because you're the executive sponsor with a number of our clients, as I am for other clients, to see actually clients' businesses change. So while we say this as tips, we've actually seen this, right, and are working with clients as they adapt their business. And maybe they've gone from a centralized model where things came from headquarters and budgets were held there to now they're in a regional approach, or maybe they have local country payroll teams and they never had that before. So there's a lot of optionality, exactly what you were saying, to try to think, and things will change over time. And so having the right system or the right payroll provider that can help you manage those changes and change your system for you so that you're doing things compliantly is really important when thinking long-term and strategically. So just to summarize what we've talked about today, a few key takeaways that we want to cover is just remember to, as you think about multinational companies are some of the most complex organizations on the planet. And there's a lot of regulations and stuff as they work and do business in multiple countries. They have to adapt and they have to manage challenges that are put forward and regulations that are put forward, both culturally in different markets, as well as from governments and rules and regulation, thinking about things like employee welfare, and take all that into account as you think about your planning. A lot of times you can end up with multiple payroll systems, and that can be a positive choice for you if you want to have some different technologies, or maybe you're running a regional setup where you're kind of organized by regions and having each one have a payroll system works. Or you may want more of a centralized approach where you can kind of control things and get better reporting and better analytics from the same system. So be thinking about what is the right thing. And then also there's a trend towards global kind of all-in-one system. So don't forget all the things that go around payroll, like managing your HR, managing your time. Should those be a piece of what you get, or should your payroll be kind of standalone and best of breed on its own? And so really when you also think about simplifying local compliance, remember that every last employee needs to be paid accurately on time in their local market. And so having the right integrations, having the right compliance training, all of those things are critical to being sure that your system delivers every single month for every single employee. And then really as globalization continues, so all the things that we started this discussion about, where the world is changing every day that we turn on the news, there seems to be some new exciting environmental challenge for global companies. Your global payroll system needs to be flexible to deal with that and grow with your company as your company changes. And so I've had a really great time today, Maria, kind of covering and talking about all this. You know that this is a favorite topic of mine, global payroll. And so thank you so much for all of your contributions and for adding in and for a thoughtful discussion today.
Yeah, thank you so much, John, for hosting this podcast. I think the conversation was really interesting, and thank you also the marketing team for organizing it. I really enjoyed our chat, and I hope our listeners did too. Just as a reminder, there are too many resources available for you to explore and deep dive on some of these topics. So feel free to go to our website, look for those resources, because there is a lot of detail on some of these topics.
Great. Thanks so much.